Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Eglin, and let's learn to play Prime Bomb Capture. Prime Bomb Capture is probably my favorite game. So when you're dealing with pure math and Fractasmic, they're all fun games. But Prime Bomb Capture really puts in an entire element of strategy. So let's look and see how this is played. Well, I like playing with 5 cards per player. And normally you deal these cards face down to each player. And of course the player can pick up and look at their cards. One of the keys to Prime Bomb Capture is you can only play 5 cards at a time. You may have more than 5 cards, but you're only allowed to have 5 in your hand. So each player's got 5 cards. The whole point of Prime Bomb Capture is to capture cards that are put down in the middle of the board. And these are just taken off the top of the deck. So after you deal all your cards, the deck's put down face down, and a card will be put down face up. The way it works is you bid on these cards. You try to use your cards in your hand to get the best bid for the card that's put down there. Primes can be captured by bidding with bombs, which the primes are green, and the bombs can be captured by bidding with primes. So for example, if a 2 is laid down, that's a prime. And what you're trying to do is use the biggest bomb you possibly can to capture that prime. Remember that the bomb that you put down has to use that prime. So like a 50, which is 2 times 5 times 5, can capture a 2 or a 5. A 22 can capture a 2 or 11. 35 cannot capture a 2. Okay, those are essentially the rules. So you're essentially trying to put down the biggest bomb you can to capture that prime. Now, if a bomb is laid down, you're trying to capture that with primes. And you don't just have to use primes, but primes are the best way to capture a bomb. So, for example, if a 28 is put down, if I had a 2 and a 7 in my hand, I could put those down, and that's going to beat a 2 and a 2. Okay? Because 28 is 2 times 2 times 7, so you could lay down a 2, and a 7 if you had it. Or you can lay down just a 2. But then again, a 7 would beat a 2 because a 7 is bigger than a 2. Or a 2 and a 7 will beat a 2 and a 2. Okay? You could also lay down a 2 and a 14. Of course, 2 and a 14 might beat just a 2, but it's not going to beat a 2 and a 7. And the reason is because a prime always beats a bomb. So let's figure out how the play actually works. So let's go through a game and have some fun with it. So we got the cards down, and I've put the face-up cards here so you can see them, but you normally play with the cards face so that only the players can see it. But you put a card face up in the middle. In this case, it's 16, and we'll start to play with player 1. Player 1 doesn't have a prime or even an 8 or anything that's a multiple of 16, so they got to pass. And so does player 2. One of the things that's nice about this is you can pass at any time. Player 3, however, has a prime, says, okay, I want to play this 2, and I'm going to try to capture it with a 2. So they put that 2 forth, and that's called a bid. Player 4 throws up a bid also because they also had a 2. Well, it's going to go back around one more time now because everybody did something, but not everybody passed. Well, players 1 and 2 will pass again because they couldn't play the first time. They can't play the second time. Player 3 no longer can play anything else other than the 2, so they're going to pass. Now, player 4, if they've got another 2, can easily capture it, but guess what? They've got a 4. So the 2 and the 4 combination, because 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 times 2 is 16, see that multiple there, is going to beat just a 2 alone, and they capture the cards. Everybody else would pass, and player 4 has now captured those cards. Now here comes the fun part. You can only play 5 cards at a time. So you have to player 4 is going to have to set out 2 of their cards. So what they do in this case is they're going to keep that 2 in their hand, and they're going to set out the 4 and the 16. Okay? Now, usually at this point in the game, we let every player trade cards. In other words, they can take however many cards they want out of their hand and trade it with cards from the deck. Of course, they can't see the cards from the deck that they're trading with, but that's called trading out. And you do it between hands. Once that's done, we now start the next round. Okay, we throw an 11. Well, 11's prime, and player 1 has a 44, which is wonderful because they can throw that 44 down. Okay, everybody else is going to pass there because that 44 is going to win that 11, and player 1 gets to keep that 11. They're going to stick it in their hand, and they put the 18 to the side. Notice how they traded out their hand. That 18 is now behind. Let's try another card. Okay, now a 28. All right, so 28. Okay, let's look at all the rounds as they went through. Player 1 would pass because they don't have anything to capture 28. Player 2 can play that 14 because 14 times 2 is 28. But if anybody has anything better, any primes, they're going to be able to beat that 14. And sure enough, player 3 has a prime. So that 7 is going to beat that 14 because it's a prime. Okay, player 4 could have played a 2, could have played the other 2, but 2 times 2 is 4, and that would be beaten by the 7. Knowing that player 3 is going to win it with a 7, they choose to pass and not lose their cards, because remember, whoever wins it's going to take those cards from the other player. So in this case, player 3 wins the hand, and they're going to go ahead and change their hand out a little bit, put that 14 over to the side, and they've got their play cards now in play. As you can see, it's relatively straightforward in the rules and the progression. The concept is that each time around you can bid, and you don't have to play your entire hand at once. Player 4 could have played a 2, and then the next round played another 2, trying to draw other players to play their cards. There's the strategy. Lots of fun. One more round here. We'll play a 45. Okay, player 1 is going to go ahead and put down a 3. Player 2 puts down a 5. Player 3's and 4 passes. Okay, that brings it around back to player 1, who of course doesn't have any other plays, so player 2 is going to win that 45. Now let's say that's the last hand that we play. Let's go ahead and score it. So, in the final round, the score is going to be whatever you have sitting out. Whatever cards you're not playing will be your score. So player 4 had 2 cards sitting out. Player 1 had no cards sitting out. Player 2 had 1 card sitting out. Now here's something that you can do. So you're coming around that last hand. Okay, don't play 5 cards in your hand. Sit out a few of the cards and see how you do there. Adds something new to the strategy, doesn't it? So there's a lot of strategy, bluffing, number sense, and memory involved. Hey, you also learn primes. Another fun thing about the game. But really, this game is about having a good time and playing a real solid poker-like game where you've got all sorts of strategies involved in how you play the game. So these are available at iccards.com. Have fun and hope you really enjoy playing Prime Bomb.